Hey y'all, welcome back to Convos with Bree. I'm Bree, BREE, and today is day 43 of the Visibility Challenge and day 4 of reading my book, Young Writers Day, Fragile Minds, and the Adults That Mold Them. Let's jump right back in. It was a beautiful day. We went over to my aunt and uncle's house late that afternoon. My cousins, brother, and I would hang out while our parents got some adult time. Typically, we'd break into two groups and not hang out together. My cousin, that was the same age as me, his little brother, and I would hit the park behind their house. I loved it. It's one of my most favorite things about my childhood. The park was right next to a church, and the two of them were surrounded by houses. The neighborhood kids would show up whenever they could. It was so much fun. It had a double swing that was so dangerous, and we were obsessed with that thing. We loved to see how high we could get before we had to bail out and yell, "Let go!" On this beautiful day, my brother and my older cousin decided to come with us to the park, which was weird. They never wanted to hang out with us at home, let alone at the park. We were stoked. They actually wanted to hang out with us? Definitely in. When we got there, some of their friends were there. We walked up to the group and they let us stand around and hang out too. We felt cool. Bored, but cool. They were actually talking to us and treating us like people instead of annoying little siblings that they wanted to go away forever. We were soaking it up. But then they were just standing around, and some of our friends had shown up and were playing. We glanced at each other and slowly slipped out of the circle and moved towards our friends. The older kids didn't seem to mind one bit. We went over to the double swings where our friends were. We were having the time of our lives, spinning each other so high on the double swing, trying to make each other throw up. I was up in the air and I noticed a car whip up next to the park, and a guy got out and started yelling. I was spinning so fast at this point, I couldn't even see what was happening. I yelled out banana or whatever the code word was that day so that I could start spinning my way back down to the ground. By the time I got down, the guy was getting back into his car. My brother, cousin, and their friends looked like they were ready to fight him. He said, "I'll be back and you'll be sorry." And then he took off. We were rattled. My brother and my cousin went back to the house and said that they would be right back. When my cousin came back, my brother wasn't with him. He had left with his friends to handle it. My cousin told us that we didn't have to worry and that he would come play capture the flag with us and jailbreak if we didn't tell our parents about what happened. He assured us that nothing was wrong. It was just a stupid argument. Listen, he never played with us anymore. He was elite level good, so he made everyone step up their game. He made it more fun. When he said that, all we had to do was not tell. It wasn't even a hard choice for us then. What guy? Let's play. It was just about to start getting dark out, and everyone we had been waiting for had arrived. It was a perfect night. We kicked off Capture the Flag until it was dark enough to make jailbreak really fun. The harder it is to see, the easier it is to hide, obviously. In jailbreak, you are either finding the prisoners and locking them up or hiding and trying to rush the jail to break everyone free without getting caught. No matter what side you are on, you are either hiding, holding your breath, creeping around, or running full force. All of your senses go into overdrive in the dark. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was finally dark enough for my favorite game to start. Everybody ran to hide. I was moving around trying to see the jail. Had anyone been caught yet? Did I need to try and break anyone free? I was sneaking around trying to find a new hiding spot when I saw my older cousin hiding by the bushes. He didn't see me, which was weird because, like I said, he was elite level good at this game. Yet here he was in an obvious hiding spot, not even paying attention. Had he lost his touch? He was looking at something, so I followed his gaze. I immediately felt sick. I saw what he was looking at. A man was walking up to the park. Something wasn't right. My body was screaming at me to get everyone out of there quietly and immediately. My cousin looked over and saw me and told me to be quiet and stay here. I listened. I was terrified. I was looking around for my other cousins, for my friends. Everything felt crystal clear. It didn't even feel as dark anymore. I could see a lot of them hiding. Nobody saw this man walking up. I remember praying, please, please, please don't let them move. Just freeze everyone for a minute until this guy is gone. The guy. I was so busy looking for my friends that I wasn't watching the guy. I didn't know why I had such a terrible feeling, but it was there, and I was listening. I was always right about my feelings so far. I looked back and I saw him walking over towards a tree in the park, and he got down on his hands and knees. It was so strange to see. My brain didn't quite understand what was happening. I had full body chills. This wasn't right. I watched him as he crawled behind the tree and laid down on his stomach, arms crossed, army crawl ready. I realized that if I hadn't watched him with my own eyes, I wouldn't have even known he was there. I couldn't sit here and hide. What was he doing? This made no sense. I was terrified. Something awful was about to happen. I could feel it. My cousin must have felt the same thing because he stepped out of the bushes and started yelling, "Hey, who are you? Hey, who are you? Answer me." This made me feel brave. We could take this guy out together. I yelled out, "Yeah, and why are you laying behind that tree?" Mainly because I really wanted to know. I was hopeful it was a good explanation. I could laugh and be like, "Oh my gosh, I never even thought about that." But I knew that as much as I wanted one, there wasn't a good explanation. And then it got even more weird. He wouldn't answer us. He tried to not move, like maybe we didn't really see him. We kept yelling, "Who are you? What are you doing? What do you want?" We shouted out that we were playing a game and that there were a lot of us here. We were demanding for him to tell us who he was and what he wanted, walking slowly closer to the tree. Nothing. No response. Some of the older kids started coming out to see what we were yelling about. We pointed to the tree and all started closing in on him. I had a good angle and I saw him slowly slide his body up the trunk of the tree. He was trying to stay hidden behind it. It looked like he reached for something. Alarm bells were shooting off. We had to stop getting closer to this guy. I told my cousin, but he wasn't listening. Him and the other kids kept moving forward. I had to get the adults immediately. I took off, sprinting towards the house. I felt it with every part of my soul. I burst through the door, completely out of breath, saying, the man, there's a man behind the tree. I don't know why he's there, who he is." I completely shocked our parents. They immediately responded with, whoa, 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 slow down. They wanted me to start at the beginning. They needed all the information. Of course they did, but I also didn't have time for that. I also knew that I didn't have any option. They needed to know how serious this was so that they could help me help everyone. As quickly as they would let me, I told them the story, and as soon as I was done, my older cousin ran in through the door, And he said everything was fine. It was just one of the neighborhood kids messing around. It was scary, but it was just a joke. I had over exaggerated. I knew he was lying, but the look he gave me, I knew I needed to pretend that I believed him for a minute. Now I needed more information. He grabbed my hand and walked me out the door. The minute we got outside, he said that my cousin, the one that was the same age as me, was in trouble and we had to hurry. He'd tell me more at the park. We ran full speed. When we got there, we hid again. But this time, when we were hiding, we were watching a man yell at my cousin while he was sitting on the street corner under the light. Who was this guy? Why was he so mad? How could we get to him? My sweet, wonderful, innocent cousin. Through his tears, he kept saying that he was just playing and that his wrists hurt. That was when I realized he had his hands behind his back. I felt like I was back in that classroom in 4th grade. Why were his hands behind his back? Why wasn't he moving them? He had handcuffs on. Why did this man have him in handcuffs? I watched him walk away from my cousin and walk down the street. We were waiting to see what he was going to do next when he disappeared out of our sight. We were going to run over and grab him and get him the heck out of there. We crept forward, getting as close as we could, when we saw a police car pulling up. I remember breathing a heavy sigh of relief. The cavalry was here to save the day. The same man got out of the car, and we saw him put his shirt back on, his official police uniform. He didn't want us to know he was an officer when he entered the park. My brain was scrambling to make this make sense. He started yelling at my cousin again. My cousin was crying harder, trying to tell him that he was just playing a game. He wasn't doing anything wrong. Please, he just wanted to go home. He wouldn't listen to my cousin. He didn't believe him. My older cousin and I looked at each other, and I knew we were both realizing what this meant. This man was a police officer who had a little kid in handcuffs, a police officer who not only did not announce who he was, but also wouldn't tell us when we asked over and over. The man that scared me to my core and sent me running so fast out of the park to get help was an adult male police officer. This was who we could go to for anything. I heard my cousin start to beg him to please loosen the handcuffs. His arms and his wrists were really hurting. He was begging him through sobs. He wouldn't. He wouldn't loosen them. He wouldn't take them off. He just left him there on the curb and walked back to his car. Nope, nope, nope. Every single thing felt wrong. I felt like everything that I had been taught didn't matter anymore. I only knew one thing. I had to get our parents. I knew I needed more information, so I asked my cousin to tell me as fast as he possibly could everything that had happened from the time that I left. He said that guy never said who he was, just tried to keep hiding behind the tree until they walked up and started asking him who he was. He said he was nobody and told them to leave him alone. He started walking over to the church. Everyone followed at a distance. My other cousins were hiding over there. We always hid all over the church grounds. It was under construction, so nobody was using it at night. The man found my cousin and pulled him out of his hiding spot under the tool trailer and had immediately pinned him down and cuffed him. He moved him out to the curb under the streetlight. They didn't realize that it was a police officer until I was back. Suddenly, it hit me. Nobody knew who he was. That meant he didn't identify himself as an officer when he was pulling my cousin out from under the trailer, when he was slapping the cuffs on his wrists. I knew right then and there that those tears were fear. My cousin thought it was the man that had yelled at all of us when I was on the double swing. I was so angry. The kids had all been yelling at him, asking what he was doing, why he was cuffing our friend. They all shouted over and over that we were playing jailbreak. Nobody was doing anything wrong, but he wasn't listening. That's when my older cousin left to run home and get me. I nodded and told him I was going back to the house to get our parents, while he kept an eye on what was happening. I ran back and told our parents that they had to come to the park. My aunt was up and ready to run out the door the second I told her he was handcuffed and crying. Right as she went to walk out the door, there was a knock. She was fuming. She wanted answers, and she wanted them now. She was going to get them. My aunt opened the door, and there was the officer and my cousin. He ran into the house, and she grabbed him and hugged him to her side. The officer started saying that my cousin was seen breaking into the construction site and that we were lucky that they were letting him go with just a warning. He told my aunt and uncle that they should really have a talk with him about how serious this is. What he didn't know was that my aunt already knew everything. She caught him off guard, asking him, "Did you handcuff my son?" He looked her dead in the face and said that he did not. I couldn't believe it. Not only did he scare us all, ruin our perfect night, ruin jailbreak, try to arrest my cousin, but now he was lying on top of it. Officers were supposed to be seekers of justice, but he was lying. I knew he was. I saw it with my own eyes. I didn't understand how he could be saying this. And then she grabbed me and pulled me forward right in between them and said, "Then why did my niece just run back here in tears, terrified, saying some man had crept into the park and got onto his hands and knees and tried to hide behind a tree? A man who had not identified himself, would not identify himself, even when they asked repeatedly." Then she grabbed my cousin's arm and held up his hand. I didn't even see it until then. The marks. He had angry, deep red marks on both of his wrists. And these marks? Please tell me how these got on my son's wrist if you didn't cuff him. Do you know how serious lying to me is? What's your boss's number? Never mind. I have it. She shut the door in his face. Believe me when I say she called. And believe me when I say she talked. We all did. And sharing an experience like that is more powerful than people realize. Police officers and teachers weren't all they were cracked up to be. I didn't idolize them anymore. I didn't want to grow up and be either of them anymore. The only lesson that I learned that day was that safe people weren't really safe after all. The next week at school, we were introduced to the DARE program. Let me tell you that in the 90s, our teachers were hyping us up about this program. Everything in the 90s was all about DARE. We had commercials, news stories, shows. Everything was about how great DARE was. We were really excited to hear that it was our time. We were getting an entire class period learning from a police officer. I was sure that he could restore some of our faith in the law that had been ripped away from us. I was hopeful. Maybe it wasn't all of them. Maybe it was just one of them. Our teacher told us that he was here, so we all needed to take our seats and get ready. We were pumped, swinging our feet, moving around, anxious to see what an awesome day this was going to be. And then he walked in. The officer that arrested my cousin. He came in friendly, ready to teach. As he introduced himself and looked around the room, he saw me and his face fell. He quickly started to scan the room and found my cousin. He stopped talking, just staring, not sure what to do. Then said something about an emergency. He'd reschedule. Sorry, kids, I'll be back. Another lie. He walked out the door, and that was it. Goodbye, super awesome dare experience. Elementary was over. Good riddance. We were off to a new school. Y'all. Having teachers and police officers be held in such high regard and then having it all crushed in the same kind of time frame, it really did something to my ability to feel safe. And keep in mind, these are only some stories of what I went through when I was a kid. I left a lot of things out in this book because I didn't want it to be heavier than it already was. And I felt like these stories did enough justice to hold the feeling that I was feeling. My entire idea of reality came breaking down moment after moment after moment with all these adults abusing their power, mistreating all of us, lying. It sealed in really, really early that safety was nothing but a giant illusion. And I still struggle with this today. I still struggle with the word safe. I hate when people try to tell me, you're safe, you're safe, you're safe, because all that does to my nervous system is makes me search harder for why I'm not. Safe doesn't mean safe anymore. If I hear that I am safe, I know that means that I have to dissect that before I can feel any type of way other than armor on. Those adults in my life, these adults that I grew up around in the school district and with the police, with these people that were supposed to keep our community safe and grow our minds and help us become well-established people in the world, they weren't safe at all. They were judgmental. They ran in assumptions. They were bullies. They abused their power. They were liars. They were hurt. I did a lot of damage, and I don't just see it on me. And it's also why when so many people come to me, it's really hard for me to build a financial business off of my natural abilities, because I see all of this on every single person that comes to me. And all I want to do is wrap them up in something real where they really truly are safe, where they can really talk about their experiences, talk about their feelings, and they can process, and they can put these pieces together, and they can show their little self that while, yes, these things happened, you still grew, you still evolved, you still became this current version of yourself. And you have a choice in things now. You have a voice now. You have more power now. But it's hard for us to feel like powerful adults when we still feel like these terrified kids. All right, y'all. I'm going to leave it at that today, and we'll pick right up where we left off tomorrow. Again, I encourage you, if this brings up your own memories, write them down, talk them out, book a convo, whatever it is you need. You can always reach me at convoswithbree.com. But just today, let it be more aware. Let your own personal stories, what the word safe means to you, how it makes you feel, let it come to surface. See it, feel it, just allow it. No judgment, no trying to fix it. Just allow it to be there. Allow it to be seen. Allow it to be heard. Take a big old breath and let some of that out. Thank you so much for being here, y'all. I appreciate you so much. Remember, nothing meant for you will miss you. And we can always find our way to something beautiful.